so much better. I'll obviously, if you're listening this far, you've seen it or you've rushed out to go see it. When Max and I saw it in the theaters, I've seen it in theaters a few times. The crowd honestly cheered when Rod showed up.
Yeah.
You see the police car, and there is a moment where you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, you feel a sinking feeling.
You're like, this poor fucking guy. And then the door opens, and Rod steps out. You see the TSA logo and stuff like that. And the crowd honestly clapped. They were so happy. So it's very well crafted, like very suspenseful ending to the movie.
Mm-hmm. Another nitpick I had... you can't know which one's coming.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it would have ruined one of the best scenes of the film had Jordan Peele really scrutinized his film to death. But Chris had already been under Rose's hypnosis and can fall back into the sunken space at the tap of a teacup. Now, after the auction scene where Jim Hudson has won him in the auction, there is no need really for Chris to go back in the house, for Rose to reveal that to him that I have been in on it the whole time. I've been tricking you,
and for them to give him the opportunity to escape.
Yeah,
well, why on earth would you do that?
He even tries to attack Jeremy, to which she's put under hypnosis again. Rose could have just literally walked out to him in the backyard of the Armitage estate, tinged her teacup, and bye bye Chris.
Well,
right?
Yeah, effectively. Yeah. And then, I grant you, it'd be a wank ending if it was just him falling.
Credits.
Yeah. But that's one thing I didn't understand the first time I watched it is why wouldn't they be like, hey Chris, come over here, we want you to meet somebody, and he's like, oh, what's going on? Chinkle, 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 and he fucking falls into the sunken space. Movie's over.
Yeah.
The Armitages win. The fucking racism isn't defeated.
This movie's a political statement.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go anywhere.
Jordan Peele's a social justice warrior.
Fuck you. Chris, you really taking it up the chute in this life. You're really fucking... You got a long way, Chris, but fuck you.
Yeah. The Armitages are the good guys in this film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, only white people can help you. Only by becoming white will you be accepted. Okay, so I guess the question that I have for you now is, how would you classify this movie and why?
It's funny, seeing this film the first time in theaters and coming out of it, I was almost relieved. I was like, oh, that's not a horror film, because I'm not a fan of horror films, and I love this film, so it's not a horror film. It does have horror elements to it. There are a few jump scares, so, Jordan Peele isn't entirely wrong calling it a horror film. But my first time coming out of the theaters, I thought this was a thriller. This was a roller coaster ride.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
A very intense film, especially the final third. Your heart is racing.
Oh yeah,
all the way to the ending. And then I rewatched it, and this film is a dark comedy. Yeah, in my opinion, and I think yours as well. Right?
Without a doubt, I agree with you wholeheartedly that it is a thriller. It's extremely thrilling, and I do agree with Jordan Peele to a point where I say to myself, it has a lot of elements of classic horror. Dean Armitage, played by Bradley Whitford, is a good mad scientist.
And Jeremy is his Igor.
Yeah, really. A really creepy fucking dude.
Yeah. Backtracking to another thing we nitpicked about this film. There is no fucking way Jeremy is a med school student.
No.
I mean, the guy carries a lacrosse stick with him everywhere, talks about his love for MMA. Not once seems intelligent, but apparently, it was in Harvard or something.
I want to say, though, what he was meant to represent was typical frat guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's meant to represent kind of the racism that's inherent in fraternities.
Yeah. It's the whole reason why I left a frat, actually.
They
tried to put me under hypnosis and turn me into someone's slave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sex slave, no doubt.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucked up.
Anyways, back to what genre of film this is. Dark comedy. It's almost a parody.
It is, and in fact, when I first saw the trailer, I actually thought that it was like a like almost like a scary movie, kind of
Yeah.
like a spoof. Like I can see Bradley Whitford like being like, "Ooh, how long has this thing been going on?" And I was like, "This looks laughable.
Yeah.
This looks so laughable." But when I watched it in the movie, they play it straight, and I was bought in. Like I was
Yeah.
100% bought in. There are funny moments. There are like elements of dark satire, but like I was like, it's a properly wonderful movie. Like
Yeah, it makes fun of a lot of ridiculous horror films.
Yeah.
Too. The differences between this one, I mean, we discussed earlier, if someone was to do an elevator pitch of this film to you as a studio executive, there's no way you'd invest in it until you actually read the script. It's all about, and Jordan Peele has just proved, it is all execution.
It absolutely is. Like, it shows, like, it doesn't matter how ridiculous a plot is. Like, a movie that I've been trying to get Max to watch, and I think I'll probably introduce it to you one of these days, is Cabin in the Woods. And this movie felt very consciously in the same vein of Cabin in the Woods. And that's not just because Bradley Whitford is in both of them and he's excellent. It's because Cabin in the Woods is not to put it in kind of a hillbilly parlance, a retarded movie. It is the stupidest plot to a movie I've ever heard in my entire life. However, it's so well executed, you're bought in right from the get-go, and it makes perfect sense. And in this movie, you're completely bought in. Like, at no point was I like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Mind you, though, your dad walked in at the end.
Yeah, I've recently watched this film with my mom, and I forget where my dad was, but he come in. We were already watching this film, and he came in right at the twist scene. He had heard about Get Out, and that was critically acclaimed, so he sat down and watched it, and all he saw was the whole part about the coagulum, and then Chris's rampage on the Armitages, killing them with a few jump scares there are in there, Georgina waking up in the car, and my dad was just like, piss off, this film sucks. Yeah.
No,
So hopefully eventually he'll watch the whole thing, but it is something you can't just like start in the middle, you know, if it's on Movie Central or something.
Yeah.
And watch it. It needs to be watched from beginning to end to fully appreciate it. To see the theme as a dark comedy slash thriller with some horror elements. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Max and I did take some time to prepare for this, and we watched some of the alternate scenes and some of the deleted scenes in the movie.
I warn you all, none of them are good.
No, largely fucking pointless.
Yeah, for instance, one that had potential was the badminton scene. So
yes.
this would the part in this in the film that this would have taken place is just before the auction scene. Chris and Rose decided to play badminton with Jeremy and a friend, which seems alright at first. And then you think, well, the night before, Jeremy tried to play Chris in a headlock, called him a fucking beast, and that he'd be amazing in an MMA ring. And now Chris is all dismissive of that. And yeah, I'll play badminton with you.
Yeah,
the whole point of it is basically all the party guests are watching Chris's physique. You know, he's playing badminton, he's playing the sport. He's social, he's having fun.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a creepy scene. They're all in the background watching
because the party guests slowly start to encircle.
Yeah, and it's all. I would say 95% of that scene is all done from one shot where everyone can be seen. And the problem with it is you can see the actors are trying to play a scene out. It doesn't feel like a real game of badminton. They are serving it to one another and hitting it back and forth. And it just does not feel organic. I'm glad it was scrapped.
Yeah, it was quite clear the only reason they were doing it was to fulfill the end of that scene, which I guess is why it wound up on the cutting room floor. The other scene in this that would have taken this from dark comedy to fucking ridiculous levels, it was a deleted scene, which shows Chris in the sunken space.
Oh, yeah. I guess another criticism we have of this film. There's a lot of good, well-developed themes, but there also is like a theme of deer and Chris being afraid of them.
Well, it's unclear to me. Like, I want to say the theme with the deer is that they're treated like they're trophy animals, and that what the hell's her name? Rose treats her black boyfriends as trophies.
Yeah.
There's a big theme of hunting in the movie. Bradley Whitford is a hunter.
Jeremy's a hunter.
Yeah, absolutely. Rose, in the end, when she comes out of the house with her father's hunting rifle, is wearing safari gear.
Yeah.
Or she's wearing, like, what looked like something like Meryl Streep wore in Out of Africa.
Yeah. So backtracking to the deleted scene.
Yeah.
It goes the same way. It's right after the twist scene. Missy hits her teacup with her spoon. Chris falls back into the sunken space. Now, when we first noticed, Buchanan and I were like, "Where's the deleted scene?" Then we see it's prolonged. Chris actually lands. He's no longer falling. I think the Jordan Peele makes a cut as he's kind of falling down. He falls down and he takes out his lighter from his pocket, which again is a bit weird. Well,
it's dubious because isn't that his psyche? Why would one need a lighter?
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
So starts flicking it to make light. Finally, he gets it on, and a skeletal deer
charges him. I guess
makes a noise.
Well, no, it's just kind of like,
yeah,
and it's not even jump scare territory. Max and I watched it, and we literally turned to each other, and we're just like, what in the actual fuck is going on here? It reminded me, have you ever seen the Evil Dead movies?
I haven't, no.
There's a scene in it where Bruce Campbell is in the cabin, and the deer head on the wall starts laughing at him. And in that movie, that's the point where I'm like, okay, this is clearly just a farce. If they had put that in this movie, I couldn't have taken it seriously after that. I'd had a real tough time getting back into it because I was like, whoa.
No, almost movie ruining scene.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, there were a lot of deleted scenes in this movie. I think deleted scenes, unless they show something different, like in this, it just seemed to be like either additions onto scenes. Or
the badminton scene, I think, was the only
fresh one.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to the alternate ending, which we both agree sucked, there's multiple takes of Chris getting into Rod's car, squad car at the end,
and Rod just saying
something different lines.
Yeah, which really, I think it kind of comes around to like a thought that I've had for a long time. Unless a deleted scene is showing you something that the movie otherwise didn't, and like, oh, we had to keep it out because of the studio or something like that, don't fucking put deleted scenes in your movies. Like they're pointless. Honestly, this movie, despite the fact that we have nitpicked some flaws, nearly perfect, I would say. Like, there's not a bad thing about it, and at no point did I say to myself, Jesus, I really would have liked to see Rod say different things,
or you know what this needs is a badminton scene.
Yeah, I felt it was severely lacking in skeletal deer. Though that did appear in the trailer, and there was a small part of me that was like, why wasn't that in the movie? And now that I've seen it, thank God for that.
Yeah.
I guess another point that we've kind of written down here. I'm reading from my talking points now. Spoilers.
We're not pros at this.
Yeah, not at all. What was the point of this movie as far as race and racism goes? Like, what do you think the ultimate point was? Like, what was he trying to get out?
That racism isn't entirely gone, despite it not being as severe as it once was. Racism is now passive in a lot of ways. Police discrimination still occurs. That's in two scenes. One where Rose and Chris are on their way to the Armitages, and a second time where Rod is filing a police report and they aren't taking him seriously.
Yeah.
I guess too, Jordan Peele's trying to show almost a role reversal too. All the good characters are black in this film. There is no good white character. There's
Not a one. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all even. But not like the Spike Lee where I left the movie and I was offensive, or I was really offended by it.
Yeah.
Just in a way where I was like, yeah, I know people like
it's
that.
a different representation. Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
I think another thing it shows is that